Hey, we still on this weekend for a little?
You know it. I'm in desperate need of some.
What about you, Jim?
No, my sister's getting the wedding. She's getting married, so.
When adventure calls, make sure you're ready to answer. Stable 360 ethanol treatment is specifically formulated for year-round use, so your engines will be ready when you are. Ready, willing, stable.
The next generation of auto detailing is here, where simplicity meets performance. 303 graphene nanospray coating. Get a year of protection from a powerful graphene oxide formula. A formula that sends water flying off surfaces, keeping water spots at bay. Go beyond wax, beyond ceramic. Graphene nanospray coating from 303.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Here at FCP Euro, we take pride in the fact that each and every one of your orders is picked, packaged, and shipped by a fellow car enthusiast. We understand that you need the right parts and need them fast to complete that next project or get your daily driver back on the road. Take John, our quality assurance specialist. He's normally found in the distribution center quality checking your orders, but he's also often found out on track in his Audi TT-RS, putting parts that we sell to the test, such as upgraded track pads and suspension components. John understands how important it is for you to trust the quality of your parts, whether at the limit or just simply going to the grocery store. If you want to learn more about us, head to fcpeuro.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Final time the TrackBattle Track Attack machines will be taken to the track. And you saw in that very brief shot, there is some interesting weather that is starting to form around here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the FCP Euro Broadcast Palace. I'm Greg Creamer.
Very fancy in here.
It is. Joined by Abe Schumacher. Great to have you with us here. And we do have some weather moving in. It looks like it's probably going to be okay at least through most of the Track Attack classes and sessions that are coming out, but it's there.
Yeah, I would expect probably by the end of Time Attack, we might begin to see some moisture, and it may play into the racing of GLTC, which is following.
Absolutely. It could definitely play a role here. I think it could play a little role here in two ways. One, temperatures dropped. We've got cloud cover now, so the track is cooling. But we also have a wind, and obviously with all of these aero devices on some of these cars, you get a little bit of a breeze out there. It can drastically affect how that aero is working.
Absolutely, and one car that's noticeably absent here from the grid is Ferris Khartoumi. Set a record earlier today, but really kind of wants to save the car, I think, and was unsure about whether or not he'd go back out this afternoon. With the weather changing as much as it has recently, I wonder if he's second-guessing himself, though, because with the track this cool, it might be attractive.
It could be really good, absolutely. And there's our high-tech weather map system. And you can see that right there, all of that yellow and orange is definitely moving this direction. It's just a matter of when it is going to hit. And it's gonna. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of when. Now,
speak of the devil.
There he sits. So I guess he second-guessed himself right back into an attempt here.
Couldn't resist, I suppose.
Yeah. And look at the arrow on that thing. And I mean, that thing, I love it on the entry list where there's a listing that says estimated horsepower, and his says 1 million plus.
Well, it's a lot.
It is. It's a ton.
I believe that he runs this event right now right around 900.
Okay. Which is substantial.
It's a lot.
And for this track, certainly, you know, there are other tracks where even more is going to maybe be a bit better for you here. But here, it's a matter of getting power down as you're up and over the rises and all the significant twisty bits. And there's the significant weather we're talking about that's not too far away.
And I think maybe you and I talked about it a little bit yesterday. This track is deceptively fast. Coming out of Keyhole on your way into corner number 4, high horsepower cars are going to be going very quickly. He was saying that he was estimating, just based on gearing, that he was hitting around 170 before the brake zone, which is really fast.
That's booking here.
Yeah.
No question about that. And from what I'm looking at the flags here and the wind direction, they're going to have a pretty good side wind as they head down that back straight. and into turn 4. There are going to be some spots here. We're going to have a headwind and a tailwind. And with all the aero on the car, obviously, if you've got a stiff breeze blowing at you, you get a lot more stick, a lot more drag.
Yep.
But with that stick, you can go a little deeper into a corner than you maybe could otherwise. But if it's behind you, you lose some of the aero effect.
You're right.
And they've got to compensate for all of that.
Yeah, I think it is a constant challenge to make sure you get things dialed in right, especially given that the weather changes so much throughout the weekend.
Now, we saw, and this has been fascinating to me, in the previous session, in the heat of the afternoon, when we did have sun out, track temperature was up over 130 degrees, we were seeing a number of drivers going half a second or more quicker than they had in the cooler morning sessions. Obviously, that's just car development, continuing to tweak. Now it's cooled off again. How much can these guys do to these cars, looking at the weather, looking at ambient, looking at humidity, all of those factors, and saying, all right, here's how we get, I mean, look at that, track temp's down a good 20 degrees.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario is those drivers will use the reduction in temperature potentially just to turn the power up a little bit more. Maybe sometimes you might call it kill mode, right?
Yep.
Where you just turn everything up to 11 because the weather is great, you might as well go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, temperatures were up in the mid-80s, now dropped to 76. Again, the big concern is the breeze. But as it cools down, the air gets a little denser, more oxygen packed into it. So the motors love it, aero loves it, and the little cooler temperature on-track tires love it. So if that wind isn't too bad, and the thing is, it's gusty and it seems to be random. Every time I look out at the flags here, they're in a different direction. So drivers just have to be on their toes a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And we see Ferris completing his warm-up lap here now on his way into, I think that's corner number 11.
Yep.
Coming now around the carousel as he gets ready to start his hot lap.
And he had turned his best time 1:22.659. Around here, that is booking, and that is the unlimited record. And he is after one here. Let's watch this lap and listen a little bit too. Oh, that car just sounds so nice and such aggressive aero on it. Watch this line up here into the keyhole. Big horsepower car, and he keeps it tucked in just a little bit. And a lot of times you get a really big horsepower car, that diamond and come back is tough to do with a powerful car with a lot of weight underneath it. You just drive the shortest line and get to the throttle.
So Adam and I were talking about it yesterday. This car makes so much downforce that the rear squats on the high-speed straights.
Yep.
So much that the tires are actually wearing through the body of the car, which is fiberglass.
Yeah.
So he's got holes that are 4 or 5 inches wide in the rear of the car. And so when you see smoke coming out of the rear, it's actually just
aero
tire on fiberglass contact.
Well, I mean, just look at the size of the wing on the back of that thing. That thing is scooping up a huge amount of air and creating it. And of course, it isn't so much the way that the air moves over the wing that pushes it down. It's the way the air goes under the sculpted wing, speeds everything up and drops, creates those low pressure areas. It's an upside down airplane wing.
You're absolutely right.
All right, let's see what he does on his first lap.
21.
Wow.
He is going to be so thrilled with that. I think now he can pack up and go home. That is a spectacular time.
Unbelievable. And you think about it, he was thinking about not going out. He chose wisely.
Yeah, when I talked to him in the paddock yesterday, he said he was almost certain that he could get 22s by today. He wasn't sure if the 21s were there, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, man, that was a lap. But, I mean, he was absolutely on rails. He got it to where his little piece of debris we've been seeing out there just looks, I don't even think it's a piece of fiberglass necessarily, maybe just a big piece of Bondo or something. Tape that's sitting out there. A couple of cars have run over it. Doesn't seem to be creating any issues. But, wow, a 1:21.7. I mean, he got a full, that's 9/10 quicker than he went at any other point this weekend.
Absolutely unbelievable.
It's 2.25 miles, folks, to put it in perspective, in 81 seconds.
That's so crazy. Very, very fast. Average speed just through the moon.
You see some of the other cars here, just everybody running really, really stout aero. This is, and just to clarify once again, if you're just tuning in, somebody picking up a lot of infield dirt there. But the way that these cars are grouped, it's by speed, not by category, if you will, in terms of class rating, which brings not just the level of performance of the vehicle into it, but also the level of performance of the driver.
Just, my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm just in awe, speechless.
Yeah, that was something. That was absolutely, and again, just the fact that he thought, well, maybe I'm not going to do it, and then looked at the weather, and maybe I'll hang around and see what we can pop in here. Good lap 2 from Grant Walker in his track mod Miata. He's turned in at 129.7, just a little bit off of his best lap of a 28.9.
So checking my math here, it looks like Ferris's average speed was right around 100 miles an hour.
That's incredible. I mean, you look at the number of the corners here. You know, I mean, obviously he's got speed on that straight, but he's floating a lot of speed elsewhere with all that aero. And wow, that 100-mile-an-hour average lap. That's pretty spectacular stuff here at Mid-Ohio in any class, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Watching that beautiful line and the sound of that beast is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm amazed. This car is appears to be decently reliable. It's got a lot of good pace, and the race cars like that, you just don't expect that they would come out and run, you know, an entire track weekend without, you know, much maintenance or trouble. And this thing continues to be out every session, just running the duration.
And you certainly know where it is at any point on this track, even with other cars out there.
Yeah, certainly the loudest car in the pits and on track.
Yeah, you were telling the story, I think it was yesterday, about, was it your daughter?
Yeah,
that
she's not a big fan.
Spooked her.
That's not a big fan. I was told that the crew paddocked behind him bought him an air horn as,
is that right?
as a way to give advance warning for when he's going to start up the car so that they can take hearing precaution.
I think that's a great idea, because it is, and I'll tell you, one of the most loud moments is when he brings it back into the pit lane.
Oh, yeah.
And he gives it that last blip.
Yep.
And it just, there's this bang that goes off with it. It's just unbelievable. The 82 of Carswell putting up a good number here in the early part of this session in his RX-7. That's who, is that who we're looking at here?
That is.
Yeah, it's a great lap, a 130.9. It's quicker than he's gone by about 0.3 so far this weekend. Had a 131.2 essentially previously. So this track is quick right now.
So I think, too, a spotlight that we'd like to show is Josh Halka with a 133.1. That, I think, is his fastest thus far. But Tony Barber and Jackie Ding running Tesla Model 3s are electric car competitors within the same class. And I believe that they're starting to knock on the door. I think they're about a second off of Josh Halka's time, but it's amazing to see the performance of the electric cars in this class.
Oh, yeah, that's really getting after it. And just to give you an update, Halka, he did beat his best time. It was a 133.19, and now he gets a 133.1 flat. So by small increments, 9/100ths of a second, but still in all, when you're quicker, you're quicker. And the number 333 of Barber, that's Tony Barber in that Model 3 you're talking about. Yeah, he's not that far off in that car. By the way, just giving you an update, folks, we are getting some reports of lightning that is in the distant area, but with this storm coming in, and obviously we've got some of our camera operators. There you have a look at that front that's coming through that are up on scaffolds, and always going to be looking at safety above anything and everything else. And so we're pulling a few of those guys down from those high platforms. So might have a couple of gaps in the coverage and have a little bit longer camera angles, but I'm sure everybody understands.
Oh, definitely. So you're getting a good look at Dewey DeWitt's Boogeyman on track. This car is a lightweight, I think it's a Subaru RS chassis. Really, really high performance. I think 600 plus horsepower in a car that's relatively light, and he's pretty quick.
Yeah, he had a 132 flat was his best time, and he's underneath that now by 0.7 at a 31.3.
They're all chasing the street mod record, though, from Jackie Ding from last year, which is considerably faster, I think, in the high 28s or 29s. Big challenge for Street Modified this weekend. I don't think anyone's been sub 30 in that class this weekend.
That car at Dings was something else, wasn't it?
It's quite a machine.
Yeah. Oh, is that our? Oh, that I think is the Nissan that has that monster arrow, particularly on the back of the car. That is just a wild-looking car, but you know it is making an immense amount of stick.
So see on frame here, that's Josh Hawka coming through. And Joe Milkey there as well, getting a little bit loose on the back end in his WRX STI.
I love these tails away shots because you can truly see, you know, that's what to me makes road racing, is when you can take a look at tails away through the various corners, see the rotation on the cars.
Absolutely.
You know, see everything how that's happening. It's like I see that flag, by the way, folks, if you're not used to it, that yellow and red stripe flag. It basically is a change in surface conditions flag is what it technically means. It can be for fluid from a car, it can be oil, anything like that. It can also be put out on occasion if there's an area of the track that's wet from rain that others might not be expecting. And I haven't seen anything else down on the track, so I'm wondering if that might be what we're looking at.
Yeah, I know that we saw that piece of debris on the course several minutes ago. But you wouldn't expect to see that flag come out now unless it was something beside that.
And in the 87 Team Twitch car, Alex Moss going out and playing in this one.
Excellent. I know that he is used to driving his Super K S2000, which is a very lively car. He's really active in the cockpit, doing work to get the car to do what he wants. He said by comparison, Twitch is very subdued.
Oh, okay.
In that it's a little bit slower to respond. It's easier to drive, but it's not as engaging as a car. And so he's kind of getting the experience of both.
Well, you know, it's nothing wrong with driving a variety of vehicles. Seat time is seat time, and also if you're adaptable, then if somebody asks you to hop into a car, you can get in and make it work here and get after it. A couple of guys really squaring up that last corner, getting ready for runs, and I'm not surprised the wind has picked up huge and that the skies are moving toward us, and that one area, when you start looking, there it is, you can see that it's getting pretty ugly out there, and the flag's right. You can hear the wind on some of the cameras around the track. It is intense. So a couple of these guys are just queuing up to get in a flyer here.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see some drivers start to shut things down because as the track conditions go from dry to wet, that particular moment where things really start to get slick can catch people off guard. If the session is fully wet and you go out on wet, you know, in a wet track, you've got your expectations in line. But here, the changing environment can catch people off guard.
Well, and oftentimes it's that initial little bit of moisture that comes down where it's not solid rain, where it just turns the track into a skating rink.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because you've got all of those surface oils that are sitting there.
And this track in particular is known to be quite slippery when it rains.
I'd say diabolical. Even. Been here a number of times calling races, and when it's wet, some of the best in the business have found themselves facing the wrong way. So it certainly presents a challenge. And it's funny, you know, you look at this shot right here, you wouldn't think we've got any kind of real weather out there, and then you change that to that camera angle and you go, oh.
Exactly. Yep. And lots of wind. All of the flags on the garages are standing upright, basically. And we've got Twitch on camera here, just continuing to run, though.
Alex just out there flogging it. He is just, and we were watching this car in the previous session, and it was getting thrown around and on the curves. It was just brilliant. We said, and Alex had said he was probably going to be out in it, so we were giving him all this credit. It wasn't Alex. He said, no, he said, that wasn't me. He said, I'll be out in the next session, though.
Yeah, and Alex has been joining you here in the booth for the calling of GLTC. I got a chance to watch the stream in the top 10 shootout, which is extraordinary. I love that format.
Oh, I do too. I would love to see like one session a day of time attack done in that format.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it would be just spectacular.
Yeah, it's really exciting when the intensity of the competition is just so focused in that one little spot.
Yep, and I mean, that's one lap. You got to nail it. You got to get it right. and go after it. And I think it would be a really fun way.
Well,
to do
actually, an interesting bit of trivia. It was DJ Alessandrini last year who qualified P1 in the top 10 shootout, and here jumped into first position when he ran. He just happened to be bested by Swenson there right at the end.
Right at the end, but yeah, it was close. It was close, and it was just a fun run. There's no question about that. Had a look there at the 61 of Stephen Green. That's a Street GT Corvette GS, and out there putting on some good runs. There's the number 96 hand out the window, so I'm guessing this will be his last go at it here.
Yeah, that car at home at Road Atlanta Johnny does a number of track days there. Really really fast track car, focused primarily on aerodynamic design and performance, and runs a lot at Road Atlanta.
Well, I'll tell you, if you run a lot at Road Atlanta, you're used to going quick.
Yep.
That track is unbelievable. And a track where aero is king, that's for sure.
Yep, and we have historically run there in the past, so it's off our calendar currently, but I know a lot of our drivers really enjoy putting laps down there.
Well, you know, if you're in time attack, you got to love to go fast. You know, I mean, that's thing one here. And I mean, you know, so a track like a Road Atlanta is going to really get the blood pumping, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And especially when you get the chance to put data on top of watching video feeds and things, seeing just how fast cars, you know, enter into turn 12 or enter into turn 1, you have some context. And so when you see cars going 95, 96 miles an hour on their way into 1, man, that's fast.
Oh, it's booking. And, you know, turn 1 to me has always been an amazing corner. I've done a lot of racing at Road Atlanta. And you go in, it's a commitment corner, because as you turn in, it's falling away a little bit.
Yep.
So the car starts to rotate, and you just have to have faith that you're going to catch that hill.
And the track will come back to you.
And the grip will come right back again. So you throw it in there, and just like, all right, winging a prayer here. And when you get it right, it's a blast. I have to say, they've changed it a little bit, but back in the day, my favorite corner there was 3 of all things.
Is that right?
Because if you could curb hop that inside curb massively.
Oh yeah.
And straighten that out, and then you'd have such a fast run down through the S's.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. They've made that a little bit more aggressive now. You have to stay off it a little bit. But
yeah.
It was big fun.
And I know that paint at turn 5 also can catch people off guard, especially time of day. That can be quite slippery. People need to really be careful there.
Well, and they also, the backside of those big, long, wide curbs, they graduate a little bit. So if you get too far over them, then it starts kind of like the exit of 5 and 1 at Road America. If you get way out there, suddenly that curb goes up.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts kicking that car around. And, yeah, a lot of stuff happens there. So it's, you know, great challenge to be sure. And I got to tell you, I had the pleasure of driving a few races there before they made the changes when the dip was still there.
Oh, my.
That, talk about sucking it up.
What was the name of that? Didn't that particular area have what used to be like from 10 to 12? The dip that was there, didn't that have a very particular name?
It was. I think it was just the dip.
The dip.
They just called it because, and the thing is, when you went through it, and if you've been to Road Atlanta, to give you perspective, there's the tunnel now that runs underneath to get you from the outside to the inside, right underneath the approach to 10. The bottom of that tunnel was the bottom of the dip.
My goodness.
So you'd come over 9 and you'd fall down, massive compression with a little turn, and then as you're driving up, you're just looking at the bridge abutment.
Yep,
well, at the bridge abutment. I mean, at the bridge, right? And when you turn in, if you look under that bridge, it's still there. There was literally this curb, this little bit of a raised curb that was right on the concrete bridge abutment. And you'd have to get your right front tire up on that curb to be fast through there, which means your mirror was a couple inches from that concrete, and the speed you'd flow through there.
I have no doubt. That whole area at Road Atlanta gives me the willies. I don't like it one bit, but yeah. I know a lot of our drivers really love driving there.
Yeah, it's a lot of consequence there when you get things wrong.
So we've got Time Attack, I think B now out on track.
Sure do.
The weather's looks like it's holding off a little bit.
Yeah, so far.
The front kind of came through and got really windy, but it's dying down a little, and the track has yet to be wet.
And love to see that. Gives everybody an opportunity to get out there and this B group. We hope we get through all of them, and obviously we got the Touring Cup thing coming up as well. So hopefully that it just hangs off long enough. And this may be Group B, but there's still some pretty radical machinery out there.
Absolutely. Certainly cars look the part of Time Attack, absolutely. But again, drivers in B, still well-prepped cars that might just be a little bit slower or lower on horsepower depending on their class. I think what we're seeing is a decent number of Club TR cars running in this category. And those cars are really, really rewarding for drivers, and some intense competition there as well.
And got an opportunity here, folks, when you take a look at some of the cars that are out. One of the ones that I really love to watch, and this is that, I mean, there's a Corvette C8 out there, which it has such a sporty look to it. Ooh, is that tire rub?
I don't think so.
No, it looked a little bit more severe than that.
So that's a, oh my.
Yeah. It's the 197 Kendall Samuel, one of the unlimited cars. It's a Impreza, but he looks to be having some issues.
So I'd expect a black flag from Kendall here very soon.
Again, a nice opportunity here for us to give a shout out to the corner workers that are been out and in it all weekend long here, out in the conditions, out in, as I say, a bit in harm's way, providing information to the drivers via the flags and whatever assistance they can. And I think he read it and came in on his own there. I didn't see a black flag anywhere. But nice job by him to figure it out. And the last thing you want to do is just oil down the track for everybody, so that was a nice read.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if that was fuel, but just kind of the way things were spraying out, it seemed like it was kind of under pressure. So either water from a radiator or a fuel line rupture or leak. But track still green. Looks really bad out there, but it hasn't come yet.
No, it continues to stay just far enough away that it hasn't really affected anything here. And while I'm thanking all of the corner workers and the volunteers, probably should say a big thanks to our remarkable stream crew that are out there up on the cameras, the scaffoldings, flying the drones around and everything. They've been out in it all weekend as well, and they're just doing a superb job. Great coverage here.
Stream team's pretty excellent, aren't they?
They really are.
So P1 for this session is Ben Lynn at a 37.098. About 4 seconds off Josh Halka's time here. Ben was here last year for the first time and struggled mechanically with the car, wasn't able to get things quite right. He's pushing himself pretty hard, but he was talking to me in the paddock about how much faster this class is this year than last. Had he run the same time, he might have been in P2 this weekend, but before this session, he was sitting P6.
And is that an evolution of the cars, or is it an evolution of the drivers, or an evolution of tires? And I suppose it's really all three.
I think it's probably, many of the drivers are probably on the same brand or variety of tire that they were in the last year. I don't think there have been any massive tire launches. But the driver development, people continue to just get faster, and people are committed to coaching and using data and getting seat time and doing testing events outside of competition events in order to make sure that the car setup is correct to come to one of these weekends and be quick.
And having the engineering savvy to know about a setup, and having the driver ability to be able to discern what that needs to be, obviously, in concert, that's an interesting thing. And those people that are very mechanically sensitive seem to have a little bit of a head up on that, a little bit of smoke there from the back of that car. I've talked to a number of the legendary racers who raced in the 60s and 70s, and I would ask them, I say, you guys didn't have data. You didn't have all the sensors, and I don't know that you had a lot of driving schools back then. I mean, Bob Bondurant, when he retired from racing, started really the first driving school. So I said, what did you do when you needed to get better and find speed? And I remember Sam Posey looked at me, and I was talking to him and Hobbs, and they both looked at each other, and Sam said, you just went faster. And it was like, wow, what a difference it is to now, when you can, get in the trailer, open up the computer, look at the data, look at the points, and especially if you've got somebody that you can, relate to in terms of data. Somebody who's a little faster, you can do the overlay and go, well, here's where I'm losing time.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a massive tool, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I know that many of the drivers in our field, the first thing they'll do after they get out of the car is power up the laptop or whatever system they use and, get to the computer screen and start to look at and compare data that drivers share with each other.
Mm-hmm. It's a great spot to be able to say, wow, I could, obviously you're floating a lot more speed through here. And, then what you want to do and what you have to remember is when you get that data and you see, well, I can go a lot deeper into one than I am, you want to baby step it.
Yeah.
And not just try and do it in big chunks, because that's when you suddenly find yourself off and stuck in the gravel at best. That's a good looking car.
I'm a huge fan of the Civic Type Rs. I think they are just great.
Yeah, great lines on it, and then you get a great graphics package on it that sort of highlights everything.
So
Makes
Kendall Samuel back out on track. Whatever issue he had, hopefully, is fixed.
And I watched him around when I came out, saw him make a couple of corners. Didn't see any of that smoke anymore, so good thing that.
Looks like Ryan Seiler cruising there, either cooling down or on his way back into the pits. Good competition in Club TR, has won an event previously, but competition in Club TR is just incredible given that it's its first year.
I was going to say, as we're watching Ed Siegel here, got down to a 139.1 in this session, and he's just a little bit off by about 0.3 off his best time of a 38.8. But I got to think that the GRIDLIFE people, in terms of time attack, have to be thrilled with both the response of teams and drivers entering Club TR and just how successful and competitive it's been.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to kind of a cluster of cars and drivers that are previously underserved by the time attack community. These are cars that are in HPDE running a lot of sessions, really, really good track day cars. And in the conventional time attack structure, they didn't actually fit very well because they were not very competitive in any one of those, more conventional time attack classes. And so with the addition of this club class, Club TR, we get lots of fantastic competition without undermining the rest of the time attack community.
Well, and I love this structure where you start in the HPDE and just go out and get that education, learn a little bit. How do you get around a track fast and the like? And then you got this opportunity to be able to get out and say, all right, I'm ready. I want to really start to drive this as fast as I possibly can. And GRIDLIFE gives you the opportunity. It's a nice ladder.
Absolutely. And so if I had to describe the more conventional time attack approach is, it is this combination of driver plus builder. And sometimes you as an individual might have the skill for both, or maybe you have people around you that can complement your skill and fill in those gaps that you might have as a driver or as a builder. The interesting thing about Club TR is that it's not necessarily designed to be a builder class. The rule set matches decently closely the GLTC rulebook, but it's a, just kind of run what you have and just run it as fast as you possibly can. And in that way, drivers are focused on being drivers and not necessarily required to be also builders.
Right, just get out, something a little bit of a slide there, but just hustle the car a little bit. And the Sunday Cup is essentially the same thing. I mean, those are not very, highly tweaked cars.
Extremely limited preparation on those cars.
Is that like B-Spec essentially?
Very close, yeah. And actually, there's a provision in the rulebook right now for B-Spec cars to be able to run as is within our Sunday Cup.
Well, all you folks that have B-Specs out there, that's an opportunity for you. Come out and have some fun.
So Ryan Seiler on screen here has really dove in headfirst with Club TR. Ran at NOLA in the same configuration in November when we were at, we were down south, but that was before the launch of Club TR. So, he's been running this car as configured for quite some time.
Well, and he is now a tenth quicker than his previous best here this weekend. So putting one together here, and he looks like he's got a pretty solid, got that curb hop pretty good.
That
but
might not be the fastest lap for him.
Yeah, you can see that he bounced the back end, swung around just a little bit. And when you get the car sliding at that level, it's basically side bite friction, slows you down.
Absolutely. Just scrubbing a little bit is, you know, these laps essentially have to be perfect in order to improve and set records. And, you know, any mistake like that is just amplified. And the best strategy in time attack typically is to, you know, just shut the effort down, you know, let the car cool a little bit, you know, cruise for half a lap or a lap and a half, and then give it another try.
Right.
And so some of the drivers that are really kind of cerebral with time attack will use the predicted lap times that are provided by a lot of our data systems to decide whether or not to continue on max effort. Because, you know, if you're a half a second down, you probably won't make that up, so you might as well just cruise a little bit and give it another go at a fresh attempt.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the more you torture the tires, the slower they're going to get. So,
absolutely.
I mean, that just that's a great way to do it. Bail, cool them down, and then give yourself another run. And you know, the thing is that a lot of people may not quite grasp, when you've got big horsepower, the tires have a certain slip angle that if you're within that slip angle, everything's great. Once you exceed it, it's that friction.
It's a problem.
It's that, and it slows you down. So even in a 1,000 horsepower car, smooth is fast.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah. You know, now there are times you may want a little rotation, you know, to help get the car around, but it's not throwing it completely sideways out there. That's just not going to work. It isn't a sprint car. It's a road racer.
Checker flag here on Time Attack Group B, waiting for C to release here momentarily.
Yeah, they're already, I would hope they're getting ready and queuing up in a pretty big hurry here. Because we've been,
got to beat that rain.
So far, we're hanging right in there, aren't we?
Seems that way. I just don't know. I mean, it's expected that rain will be here 100% predicted by 6 p.m. So
gee, what happens then?
I think that's our GLTC race.
Yes,
now,
it is.
now, here's the gamble in GLTC. Some drivers historically have, I mean, it's a coin flip, basically. Yeah. Some drivers will likely go out on wets, and of course then it will be dry. But if you put dries on, of course it's going to rain. So the interesting thing about the duration of a GLTC sprint race is if you make your call, you just have to live with it, because there is no coming into the pits and changing tires during a race.
Yeah, sometimes in racing, regardless of what the rule book says, the overriding rule is Murphy's.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That'll do it. And here, let me throw just a little teaser out for you while we're in between sessions. Potential rain. With the inversion, we have the youngest ever pole sitter in his third race.
My goodness.
Yeah. So Matan Rosenberg, 17 years old, and he's going to be leading the field to the green.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah, great story. Great story. This is his third weekend. This is his first year racing. He's done 3 events. He did the Blackhawk Comp School.
Okay.
Which we talked about earlier. Which, you know, folks, if you're doing time attack, you're interested in this, and you think I may want to go wheel-to-wheel racing. One of the things that GridLife does that I think is just it's so cool is on every weekend they have a no extra charge comp school to kind of give you an introduction into wheel-to-wheel racing. So, you know, that's just there for you. I mean, it's fabulous. That's what he did. Then he came out, getting a little moisture now.
Got a little water on the camera here.
He went out and did a couple of races, Autobahn and Gingerman, and this is his third one. And he in the first race, he broke a hub on the opening lap, and they got it fixed. He got the guys from Brofab, Broden from Brofab, found him a hub. This is the first race his dad was able to come to. His dad helped him get the car fixed, and now he's on pole.
That's so great.
How cool is that? Yeah. Really, really neat.
So we got a little precipitation here. Looks like maybe even a storm coming through. We will see.
Yeah, that front's looking like it's making an approach here. Looking at it, yeah, it's upon us here. Now, the interesting thing is that really, really nasty cell looks like it may have broken up a little bit, but that doesn't mean we're still not going to get rain.
So I think, especially now that we've made our way through A and B, expect probably no one with this precipitation is going to be going faster. Just because the track conditions will deteriorate pretty quickly. I can see the rain looking out the window here, so don't imagine. The rain might actually force some people to just pull things back into the, into the pits. Now, historically, we also keep track of wet times, just kind of a wet weather time attack.
Right.
Even here at this track, the challenge of driving in extremely wet conditions is a good opportunity to learn some car control.
Absolutely.
And so we do have a record book for the wet track, but it's my judgment call, actually, whether or not the track is wet enough to be considered.
Okay.
And generally, it has to be actively raining and spray or standing water coming from cars on track.
To be considered
wet,
full
wet. Yep.
Okay.
And so also, as it relates to that determination, a session is either completely wet or not. So that, there's not wet times being offered for time attack C and not time attack A or the like. So in years past, when we've run here at Mid-Ohio, we had, an entire day of heavy rain.
Yep.
And some of our limited cars, when they learned that we were going to keep track of wet weather times, just put the reins on and go.
Nice.
And it was kind of extraordinary to see cars like that with all that big aero, what those cars could do as it related to moving air and water from the car.
Yeah. Well, and one of my favorite things about rain racing, and I mean just the challenge of it, but from an outside perspective, is if you've got cars with aero, rain allows you to see the aero
absolutely.
work.
And so what we saw in those unlimited cars is, rain being kicked up from the splitter underneath the car, 15, 20 feet, just straight up as the cars made their way past start-finish here. It was really extraordinary.
Well, and, Formula Atlantic, which is a full tunnel car, and back in the day of the IMSA GTP when they were running full tunnel cars, it was one of the most amazing things to see because they'll be driving along and you see the normal spray coming off the tires and just off the car, and when they'd hit that point where the ground effects would really hit, it was just like suddenly this just huge thing just came shooting out the back, and it was like, that's the downforce, that's the ground effects, all of that's moving out is sucking that car down onto the track.
Absolutely.
It's just neat to see.
So I would hope that drivers take this session gingerly, because as the track begins to water in, things are going to be slick.
Yeah. These are to me, when the track, that first little mist starts to hit, that's when the track's at its most diabolical. I mean, if it's just wet, you know what you got, But in this, these situations, it can be a little sketchy. And the question is who's maybe rolled the dice a little bit and thrown the wets on, who's decided, well, it's not that bad yet. We were already queued up on slicks. Let's see what happens.
I know that one of the drivers that we just saw in the Audi S4, that's Cal Fortner, he loves the opportunity to drive in the rain, and any chance he gets, he will be in grid ready to run in wet weather.
I've always thought when you got, the drivers that just go, I'm looking for rain. I'm looking for rain. Those are the guys that often, they call it the great equalizer, whatever you want to say. But people that love to drive in the rain generally are the ones that are a joy to watch in the rain.
Absolutely. And, it's within our group, GRIDLIFE universe, it's also kind of a prideful thing. There are people who are known for being supreme wet weather drivers, and they wear that badge pridefully.
Absolutely, and I got to admit, one of the reasons Fortner probably enjoys it is he does have all-wheel drive.
Yeah, that's true, but things maybe are easier, but braking and stability under braking. That doesn't matter. Four-wheel stop is different.
Yeah, four-wheel go is that's a really good point. But when you get to somebody who knows four-wheel drive, I mean, I got to tell you, I remember back, and I'm dating myself here, but back would have been the late 80s when the Hans Stuck and Hurley Haywood, and on occasion the rally master named Walter Roll, were driving the Audi
Group B cars.
Well, no, the Audi Trans Am cars.
Oh, boy.
In Trans Am, and they were these howling 5-cylinder turbos with all-wheel drive, and watched a race on TV right here at Mid-Ohio. And Hans Stuck, who is known as a Regenmeister, one of the great rain drivers of all time, he, in the course of a 100-mile Trans Am race, I think he lapped the field like 5 times. I mean, he was just, you could almost hear him yodeling in the car. Just, yes, this is so fun, and everybody else is hanging on for dear life.
White knuckle the whole time.
Yeah, and he was just flying. And, I mean, you get somebody who's got that figured out, oh, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a different challenge. Going for a 10/10 lap in the dry is absolutely really impressive. Everyone who can set a record or do a personal best, kudos. But the rain is just a little bit different. We have a number of our competitors in GRIDLIFE also do ice racing. Andy Smedegard from ASM hosts basically autocross days on a frozen lake in Wisconsin during the winter.
I love it.
And
Ice cross, huh?
Yeah, those folks put studded like they sharpen bolts and stud through tires, and they go out and ice race. And the amazing thing, I've been in the car with Andy during an ice race, and in a car with street tires on a track like this in dry conditions, you might get 1.4, 1.5 lateral G if you're lucky. In a car with studded tires on the ice, you'll get at least that.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite an experience.
It is. The first real door-to-door racing I ever did was ice racing.
Is that right?
And it was, on the circuit, it was called the Ice Champ. Ooh, big save there. It was called the Ice Championship Endurance Series, and they literally we would plow a 2-mile road course on a frozen lake, right? And we had sprint modified racing, and then we had 3-hour enduros with full driver changes.
Oh my goodness!
And the whole thing, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And back then we used an umbrella-shaped stud, so when you're going in a straight line, and when I say, I mean literally, so the sharp edges around the side, not just a straight stud, right? So when you're going in a straight line, the car is actually squirming all the time. But when you get into the turn and you turn and it would set and those and the umbrella edges would bite, it would just go and you just
you kind of start with the car floats and it slides a little bit, and then as it digs, that's when you get grip. It's quite an experience, especially for someone who's really talented ice racing. You kind of set up for a corner way before you normally would if you were driving on a road course. And as the car moves, that's when things start to dig, and there's just so much speed to be had.
Well, and you almost do rally turns entering it, so you can get to that side and that bite, especially on those umbrella studs. And so to me, it was a combination, quite literally, of road racing, rally racing, and sprint cars, because you're so sideways out there. And I mean, I certainly enjoyed my dry road racing, but that ice racing was some of the most fun you can imagine.
So you see times here on course. 1:59.778 is the fastest we have of this session. 53 by Fortner. Most cars are slow by probably at least 30 seconds relative to their best in the dry weather.
Fortner's at 1:53. His best time was a 1:40.1.
So him 13 seconds.
That's not bad. That's not bad to be in that window. But
the judgment here is that this is not wet.
Yes. Yeah, it's damp.
Yeah, and variable as well. I think there look to be parts of the track that have some grip.
Yep.
But especially the rear-wheel drive cars coming over Madness and things, the rear end stepping out quite a bit.
You want to get those, any rear-wheel drive car in these conditions, it's all about getting it straightened out before you go to power.
Absolutely.
And late apex in corners. And if exploring the rain line on the track. And if you're not familiar with that, folks, the fast line around a racetrack gets heavily rubbered in, and all of the little sharp edges of the asphalt, you get the rubber in it, so that then the rubber on the tire and the rubber on the track meet each other, they grip, and that's what gives you speed. In the wet, that just becomes really slippery, and there's nothing for the tires to grab. And keep in mind, the thing that makes a rain tire work in the wet, yes, it channels the water out, but it's a super soft compound because you still need the heat to get
absolutely.
the grip. But in wet conditions, if you get off of the normal racing line where all of those little jagged little pieces of the asphalt haven't had the rubber jammed in between them, that's where you can find the bite. So you'll see people driving bizarre lines if you're not used to it. sometimes.
Essentially here, the rain line at Mid-Ohio is basically everything that the main line, the racing line, is not.
Exactly. Exactly. You come into a corner instead of all the way off to the left, say, into 4. You come in middle right.
Yep.
And then sometimes you actually will cross and just run and then arc the outside because it's going to be more grip there. And it's a bit counterintuitive. And the way that I discovered the rain line at Brainerd in my first race, a wet race there, was went into turn 10 and my foot slipped off the brake.
Yeah.
And fortunately, turn 10 has a little bit of banking to it.
Okay.
And so I overshot the corner and I got up off of the normal line and the car just turned. And I went,
oh, well, that's where I want to be.
Hello. And so that was my lesson. Then I started exploring it in these other corners. And it's amazing. You can actually find some pretty substantial grip up.
Well, and there's some spots on the track where, elevation or undulation really upset the car. Of course, madness, but actually coming out of the carousel onto the front straight here, there is a little bit of change. And I think even some of our competitors here have been caught off guard and made contact with the wall, getting on power too early or too much in wet weather or even damp condition.
Yeah, it's really easy. And the thing in the wet, in terms of, you need, 1, a very, very gentle throttle pedal. 2, you need really quick hands, but not overreactive hands.
Certainly.
So if you just, immediately think, I got to go to full opposite lock here, that's not going to help you. You need to, your hands have to react quickly, but as minimally as possible, because you want to keep that, you don't want to upset the car at all.
Yep, and especially if there are portions of the track that have a little bit more or less grip, that could lead to a snapback, oversteer condition, which sends you the opposite direction.
Get a little what they call TTO, trailing throttle oversteers.
Oh boy,
that's not good. Now let's talk these cars. While they were sitting and watching and thinking, okay, this, we could get some moisture down. Sometimes you don't necessarily put wets on, but you may want to soften the car up a lot to get a lot more roll, to get that weight on those tires and bite. I don't know, sitting in the pre-grid, that they had much opportunity to do.
Yeah, probably not. And I think you see here only about 9 or 10 cars taking to this session. A lot of these drivers might just say, well, I'm not going to set my fastest time during this session. I'll just, I'll be happy to park it and, start enjoying the festivities this evening a little bit early.
A little bit sooner, yep. It's kind of like the great David Hobbs once told me. He said, if you're in an endurance race and if your car's going to break, better it happens in the first 4 or 5 hours so you can grab a shower, have a nice dinner, and a couple of glasses of wine.
There you go.
So there's the deal here. But talking about that, getting the weight, softening the car up and all that, again, it gets back to when you get right to the basics of it, getting a car around a racetrack fast, wet or dry, is all about physics.
Certainly.
And getting weight transfer. That's what makes it work.
So certainly you see now, too, rain coming down here in the shot. Drivers, many of them pulling in or running the wipers on elevated speed. Good practice for sure as Dallas makes his way through the carousel onto the front straight. And again, like I mentioned just a moment ago, getting on throttle there can get the rear end to get loose and potentially make close quarter with the wall there.
Yeah, there are spots here, like down that front straight. If the car just gets away from you, there's barriers on both sides, the pit wall and the wall on the exit, and that bridge there as well. And take a look at this. I mean, before this session started, we had temps of 110 degrees on the track. It gets damp, it just plummets.
Yeah, things cooling off quite a bit. I want to say thanks to our stream team for providing those temperatures.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm keeping a look on that. That big nasty cell. You can still see it off in the distance, but the big chunk of it is broken up. But that doesn't mean there's not a fair amount of moisture still to be had in the air, and that's what everybody's dealing with out there. Yeah, we just a few cars are continuing to stay out. And this is absolutely great training, as you said, for car control and everything that we've talked about. When the car starts to slide. I mean, this is an opportunity, at a driving school where you go and they have the cars with the 4 jack wheels where I can raise it and lower it to get that car to move. Well, you're getting a handful of this right now.
Well, and I think events like these and HPDE events where you get weather are actually remarkably good training for certain types of competition. An event that I've done before as a driver is the Tire Rack One Lap of America. And in that event, you're basically expected to perform nearly independent of weather conditions. So, you know, in extreme cases, things might be paused, but you need the ability to go out, be fast in wet weather, because that's how the events are scored. And it's really hard to learn how to be fast in the rain unless you take every opportunity you can to drive in the rain.
You're absolutely right. It's just such a different feeling when you're out there. I mean, the car is just skatey and everything, and you can feel it. If you've got a nice feel, you can still sense the grip levels. But when it just starts to slide on you a little bit, if you're not used to it, you get that. It's one thing when you slide and it's dry and it's like, all right, give it a little throttle, get the weight back.
Because you know the tires are going to be there.
Yeah, but in the wet, that if you're not used to it and it starts moving around like that, it gets you moving. You start talking to yourself in the car like that.
Yeah, and I think actually that's there's something to be said too about those folks that spend their time doing drift as well, learning how to manage a car that's kind of on the opposite end of control, I guess.
Right. Well, and there is something to be said, and it's funny, the book and the movie, The Art of Racing in the Rain, sometimes it is actually really effective to get the car to slide first before you get to the, as you turn, get it to slide a little bit, because now you can drive the slide as opposed to, okay, I'm good, and
then you're not. Yep.
So there is that factor. And I have to tell you, the first rain race I did, and I was thinking, I've done a lot of ice racing, so I think I'm pretty comfortable sideways. I should be okay. It wasn't being comfortable sideways where I benefited huge from my ice racing experience in that race, because I was running an ITC car, so I was like 22nd in a field of 40.
Okay.
And so I was, this wall of spray, right? What the best thing from the ice racing was I found myself absolutely unfazed with crap visibility.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it was like, when you're ice racing, you either, if it's a warm day, you're just driving through slop that's thrown up everywhere. And if it's a really cold day, a car goes through and those studs chew up that ice, and it turns to dust and just hangs in the air. So you're driving into a wall of white.
Right.
So visibility, and people forget about that in the rain. We're talking about car control and all that. You come up behind another car and it's wet out there. The spray, especially in those unlimited and track mod machines, the amount of spray that's coming off of those diffusers,
quite a lot.
It's a ton, and if you're not comfortable in that, it's going to spook you.
So we're seeing checker here now for the remaining drivers on track. There aren't that many, and I am interested to know if there are any cars sitting in Time Attack Group D ready to go out.
Well, I might be able to see here. I see one, maybe two. So, but it's a little obscure.
I think those folks are going to get prime coverage here on the stream.
I think we're going to be covering them in depth. In depth. Good look there. Cal's still out. He's having fun.
Yeah, I don't think he would ever turn in early.
Yeah. Okay, you talking at a corner or off the track?
Oh, well. Could be both. I don't know. Maybe he's a late Apex guy.
He's out there having fun, getting that checkered flag. One more lap he's going to take, and why not? He got down to a 52.4 before this started to pick up just a little bit. That's not too bad in these conditions at all.
Yeah, but most recently his lap was a 2:10. So, getting a little soggy out there.
Just a smidge. So you got to give all these guys that went out in this session a fair amount of credit. And I don't think anybody's having more fun than he is.
Man, that looks good.
Doesn't that look good?
You know what's weird is that you saw the car kind of slide back on power into the middle of the track there, even after the skid had been corrected.
And he had his hand out the window for part of that too. So you're out there having some fun.
But again, on the racing line there, that's definitely not the fast way around here in this condition.
No. And, you know, the spooky thing is that corner, you know, the keyhole, the carousel at Road America, you know, when that barrier's not that far
it's right
away,
there.
and you got to run that outside line, man, it takes a lot of, you got to suck it up and put that car out there. And, you know, once you do it and you go, oh, wow, yeah, there is a lot more grip, then it's like, okay. But that, you know, that first time to, you know, to drive it way off of the line that you've been taught, essentially, it's a challenge.
So you can see here, not much grip on the racing line here, and he's making his way through Madness and down the hill, drifting all the way through, actually.
He is having one heck of a good time out there. That's the 495 of Richard Cho. And that is a street machine, 370Z. Now, if he drove that car here, I give him extra kudos.
Man, you know,
pitching it
back
around,
in the
have
day, I
fun.
used to drive my car to the track, and that works great until it doesn't.
Exactly. I was telling Adam earlier when I did my first ice race, and the car I was running, it was an ice racer that I bought from a guy, but it was my personal car, and it was my autocross car. And so I paddocked up next to one of the top teams in the ice racing series, and they said, yeah, you know, paddock with us, we'll help you out. And after the first session, the lead driver in the car, who'd lapped me twice during that session, he was in a faster class, and when they got back and I was pitted there, I said, hey, I'm new to this, and I know you were behind me a few times. How'd I look? And he said, like a guy's got to drive that home. It was like, all right, that was demoralizing, but it was very true.
Yeah. Some time ago, I used to do SCCA Rallycross.
Okay.
And it was my experience that the folks who were the fastest were the ones that did not care at all about whether or not the car survived the event.
That's always the case. When you're invested and you've got limited budget and everything, you're always kind of looking at things going, yeah, maybe I'm going to back off here a little bit. But,
absolutely.
You know, when you've got unlimited budget or somebody says, look, I just want you to drive it as fast as you can, and if you wad it up, we have the resources, don't worry about it. That's very freeing.
Absolutely.
Liberating.
And it looks like a few Sunday Cup cars making their way out here onto track. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Williams is in this group. We've talked about Matt on the stream a number of times, but fast driver in Sunday Cup. And
151-2 earlier in the week.
Yeah, he holds the record on just about every single track we've been to in a Sunday Cup car. But the weather not really keeping people from enjoying racing here. People still out sitting in the grass, especially at Madness. What an awesome place to sit and watch.
Yeah, so, you know, with the track with those elevation changes, there are just some awesome spots. That I love that one up at the top of Madness. The other one I love is over on the inside of 9 so you see him go up and over that jump right at the apex.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just see that car lift come down and the control you have to have when you're just flying around there, and that's amplified in the wet too.
So you see the Sunday Cup cars taking the racing line. They're not new to this.
And one thing I got to say, I can see people watching this, and you know we've been talking on and off about the corner workers, and I have to, you know, if you join SCCA and you want to get, it's the best seat in the house, and and it's phenomenal. You're part of it. You know the blue flagging. You're really into it. But I can see people watching it going, yeah, but in the wet, it's like watching these guys and watching racers, you know, as well in race competition in the wet is so much fun to watch.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you're wet. You're getting, you know, you're out there in the rain. You dress the right way, but just, you know, you're front and center watching these guys control these cars.
And things are just so lively in that environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, you under braking, they're twitching and everything, and and if you're an aspiring driver of some sort, it's an immense way to watch and learn.
So I think drivers now still on their warm-up lap. Looks like maybe 7 or 8 cars total on track. The question will be, we'll speculate for a moment, GLTC coming up, I don't think it's raining that hard. What do you think the best decision will be as far as tire choice given the conditions right now?
Well, looking at it right now, there's no standing water on the track, and it isn't particularly super wet. But you know, watching the Nissan of Cho out there, obviously grip is at a premium here, and I might go with the wets just because with the temperature dropping and the slick surface, getting back to that conversation we had about just getting a tire that's going to get heat might not be a bad idea. Now, I can see a Jeremy Swenson who runs the street tires.
That might just be fine.
He might just be dialed up. And the other thing that is the risk here, if you're looking at the radar, is if it looks like the rain's going to be moving through as the race happens and the track's going to dry, again, a rain tire is soft. And as the track dries, that heat that you like when it's wet now gets extremely hot, and you start chunking tires.
Yep.
And then the tires, it's almost worse than driving on a slick in the wet.
You know, if you're a pro program and, you know, the cost of a set of wet tires is really not a consideration as much as it's just, you know, if we need to change tires, that costs us time during a race.
Right.
Many of the drivers who have rain tires, dedicated rain tires within GLTC, will only put them on if they absolutely have to because they are incredibly expensive to purchase,
Yep.
but they're a very specialized tool.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, if you could conserve them, that's certainly the smart move. And it's interesting, you know, I'm just not sure the track's wet enough right now for rains.
It doesn't look like it. I don't think, I mean, we're not seeing much of any spray come off the rear of the car.
Yep.
And the track doesn't have standing water in it. So I just don't know if the track is wet enough to keep rain tires cool.
That's the key. That's the key. I mean, if it's one thing sometimes if you've had a good solid rain and then it stops and you've got those puddles offline where you can scoot through them and get those tires cool on occasion. But yeah, I don't know that I'd be going on rains here at all.
Looks like we've got about 8 Sunday Cup cars.
This is a B-spec race, man. I'm loving this. This is great. I love that you guys at GridLife have created this category. And I really was saddened when a few series dropped B-spec because it was it fast? No. Was it fabulous racing? You betcha.
Well, and as a spectator, it can be really fun to watch for a number of reasons. One is, well, the cars spend more time in your field of view because they're just not going very quick.
Exactly. And, you know, they draft really well, and if you allow it and let them get out and bump draft, it's an absolute hoot, you know.
Well, one of the challenges, if you're spectating at a place like Road America, which is a spectacular place to be, one of the challenges with Road America is it is so big that spectating multiple corners, you know, really isn't feasible.
Right.
So if you're looking at slow cars, you spend more time looking at cars.
Exactly. And they put on, you know, great races when I was calling it in World Challenge, and it was often some of the best racing of the weekend.
So Matt Williams, James Morgan, I think looks fastest in Sunday Cup right now with a 2:26.875 here in these conditions. Matt Williams not far behind, 2:27.030.
All right, I have a question for you. Car that's running fourth right now, Ivan, is that an Ofrichik?
I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah. I like to get the names right, and that one has me a bit flummoxed. But I think it might be a Ofrichik. Could be completely wrong.
Anyone?
Ivan on and off. On and off.
Oh, I don't know about that. So also in this class, the Ford Festiva, very good-looking car, just silly, has been running with us for a few years now. What an interesting time attack car choice.
Why is that?
Well, it's just bizarre. It's old.
It's an older car,
it's
yeah.
a short wheelbase. It reminds me a little bit more of a really old Mini.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good point.
But still raining here. Not quite, you know, puddles on track yet. But drivers doing their best to manage changing conditions.
Woo, nice save there. When I was announcing, you know, we used to get Fiat 500s too that would come out and run in a B-spec, and
that'd be a really good choice as well.
Yeah. Although they tended to be, for some reason, if they got near a curb, they could go over.
Oh boy,
that was interesting. We had a driver in one of them. I'm trying. Oh, when we were running at Coda, and it was the year that the V8 supercars from Australia came and run, so they ran the short course. And where you do the cut across, they had these honking curbs, and the V8 supercar guys actually put in extra big curbs because the fans love watching those cars just pound curbs.
Oh,
but the little B-spec guys get out there, and this one guy in a 500 caught the same curb twice in the weekend and went over both times.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was entertaining. You know, the call you don't hear very often rolled and continued.
Oh jeez. That sounds expensive to me.
Yeah, it was funny. After the first one, they just pounded the roof out and, and riveted a big piece of.
What's done is done. Just run it.
Go out, yeah.
See that Festiva on track. It's got to be the smallest wheels I've ever seen.
Yeah, they are. And you're right. They're like mini-sized wheels.
Yeah.
The original mini-sized wheels, yeah. Well, he's giving it a ride.
So the rain continuing to fall here, you see on screen. No one going particularly fast, many of the times in the 215 to 220 range.
Yeah, that's Mike Mills, and his best lap in the dry was a 57.7, and he's got a 26.4. You know, obviously well off his best lap, but relative to some others we've seen in these conditions, he's not doing a bad job at all.
So good battle, though, here in Sunday Cup. Pete Lindbergh running a 220, which is a decently quick time for Sunday Cup, given that a number of other drivers are considerably slower than that.
And it looks to me like that rain is now starting to pick up again.
But, of course, it's Matt Williams up on top with a 215.198. Really, really quick time.
Wow, I'll say. A 151.3. And he's at that's really, really quick. Leading everybody, of course, right now is the 221, Joseph King in the track mod car, and doing a pretty solid job out there, isn't he?
Absolutely. So a few cars coming in, but yellow flag here must be something up into turn one.
Let's see if we can figure out what it is. Well, we heard a little bit of I thought I did a little bit of a long lurid slide, so it may have been that car up front that spun and gathered it up and took off.
Spun and continued.
Indeed. Yeah, and look at the background there. That really nasty cell isn't there, but you could see some pretty thick rain looks to be moving our way still.
So here we are in
look at it now. It's
oh my
really
goodness,
picking up.
now it's wet. Think I'm just going to have to hang out here over on production side of the track for a bit. I've got my bicycle on this side of the course, but I don't think I'm looking forward to riding over in the rain, so I might just wait it out.
I think that's a solid plan, my friend.
Well,
solid plan. We have room for you here.
That's why they pay me the big bucks. I don't know if you knew.
I certainly surmised, but I had no confirmation thereof until just now.
So
that was interesting.
So I don't know if is that Matt Williams or Pete Lindbergh, but feeling very confident. 129. That's Matt Williams taking the racing line or the wet weather line and driving well.
Yeah, absolutely. And clearly, yeah, he gets it. And when he passed that car coming up to the top of Madness, as soon as he got around him, he just came right across in front, went right back to that outside line, or the outside line up at the top. And that's somebody who understands where the grip is.
So it's Matt Williams double driving, I believe, this weekend. He has an FC RX-7 that he runs in Time Attack as well, but never misses an opportunity to drive his Sunday Cup car.
Well, they are fun, aren't they?
Man, I just love driving them.
Yep.
Matt is very generous, offering me the keys regularly at events, and I get the chance to drive Sunday Cup, and it's just the most fun.
It's got to be, yep. And the checker is out on this session. So Williams doing a nice job. The number 48 of Tony Skursky. That's a BMW 328i. I think that maybe is just who Matt Williams just went around. And it's got a nice solid 2:16.5. But, boy, I'll tell you, that lap by Williams is impressive, isn't it?
Yeah, but you can see the track continuing to deteriorate. His best time, 2:15.198. The last lap was a 2:19.
Yep.
Considerably slower as the water begins to pool into the track. Now, I don't know, how soon are we going live to GLTC? Very quick here.
Well, it's scheduled to go at 6, but we'll have to see just how quick things get turned around here. Might be a slight delay.
And as in weather like this, I'm not sure, but the race officials may offer additional time to GLTC racers to change tires,
yes,
because the rain has started to fall more heavily in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and like I said, when you look over in the direction that this is coming from, it looked to me like there was a little heavier rain that was moving in. There they are. The cars are queued up and ready to come out here. So we will have to see. And there's Matan Rosenberg's red Miata. 17-year-old, built that car. It started as a spec Miata and built it up by himself. And his first season of wheel-to-wheel racing. And it is going to be fun to watch that happen. But obviously, we are wrapping up here in Time Attack. This is the last Time Attack session of the weekend. We really appreciate everybody who has tuned in throughout the weekend to watch Track Battle here at GridLife at the Midsummer Meet. And it has been a pleasure working with Adam, and certainly Abe. Have enjoyed it immensely working with you as well, and appreciate all your great knowledge and insight.
Well, thanks very much. Now, there will be a couple of Time Attack sessions tomorrow, but they will not be broadcast. So a few drivers will probably have an opportunity to go a little bit quicker tomorrow, but I would say that that's probably weather dependent.
I would agree with you on that one 100%. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in for Track Battle Time Attack here at Mid-Ohio. I'm Greg Creamer along with Abe Schmucker. It's been great. Look forward to you staying right with us here. We'll be back with GridLife Touring Cup, 4th of 4 races in just a minute. Today's coverage of GridLife's Track Battle Time Attack is being brought to you by Falcon Tire, competition proven performance. 303 Performance, premium protectants and cleaners exceeding expectations since 1980. STA-BIL, ready, willing, stable. MOMO, the official safety partner of GridLife. And by HP Tuners. HP Tuners, connect, read, edit, write, and drive.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times. and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
The Falcon Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast's choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Azenis RT660.
Hawk Performance packs 100 years of friction dynamics into every product. Backed by Carlisle Brake and Friction, the world's premier innovator of industrial brake and friction components, Hawk leverages R&D tools and motorsports experience to deliver uncompromising performance on the street. There's no reason to settle for less. Choose pads that are race proven and street legal. Find the Hawk Performance brake dealer near you at hawkperformance.com.
Here at FCP Euro, we take pride in the fact that each and every one of your orders is picked, packaged, and shipped by a fellow car enthusiast. We understand that you need the right parts and need them fast to complete that next project or get your daily driver back on the road. Take Roberto, one of the pickers in the distribution center and one of the key pieces to making sure the right parts arrive at your door. When he's not at FCP Euro, Roberto is driving his Mark V R32 to various car shows around the Northeast. When he's picking orders, he puts himself in your shoes and understands that you need the right parts to arrive at your door, so he takes the utmost care in making sure he puts the correct items in the box. To learn more about us, head to fcpeuro.com.
The 7th event of the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, all part of the Midsummer Meet here at Mid-Ohio. Each event featuring 4 races. It is time for that 4th and final race. And, folks, just to make things interesting, a little bit of rain starting to move in, and it is going to make this race absolutely fascinating. We've had 3 great races unfold already, and an absolutely stunning top 10 shootout. It's been spectacular stuff. This should be even better. And one of the stories is what's unfolding in terms of the points for the weekend winner and the weekend top 3. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Alex Moss. He was just out a little bit ago in time attack. I don't know if he had to deal with much of this rain, but it's starting to pick up just a little bit. That, of course, right now is the big story.
Yeah, the rain's definitely going to shake things up. For me, fortunately, it stayed dry. I probably wouldn't have gone out if it had been raining for me. But yeah, the rain's going to definitely shake things up. Those guys on street tires are going to run their street tires. The guys on the race slicks have a decision to make. Do they run their slicks, or do they run the wet weather tires that most of them should have brought with them?
Well, if I'm watching this right now, I'm saying wets. I would think that would be the smart move in this case.
I would agree with you. I know that the ASM team also all agrees with you because they will all be on wets.
All right, well, that's going to be interesting to see. Now, let's get to this thing. Obviously, there's 4 races on a weekend, and the points you score in each race obviously goes toward the season championship. But we've talked about it. One of the most prestigious things in this series, in the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, is the weekend champion, if you will. And right now, I don't know that it's ever been this close. I mean, it between the first 2 at least.
Yep, so Eric Catil is sitting in first place with 64 points right now, with Tomo Goman right behind him, just 1 point behind with 63. In fourth, we've got Swenson on 50, and Aaron Lichty is just a point behind Jeremy Swenson as well with 50 points.
Yeah, really, really close. And you see the cars now starting to make their way out. Now, here's a building story here. Remember the inversion, folks, that we had talked about. The top 11 were inverted after Hertel's issue on the last lap when he was running 11th. A young man named Matan Rosenberg, who, if you watch the first race on the opening lap, pulled off on the back straight with a broken hub, right? Well, he ended up in 11th. He's on pole. Youngest driver to ever sit on pole in a GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race at 17. Built the car out of a Spec Miata himself. He went to the Blackhawk Driver Cup, or comp school, then went and ran at Autobahn and ran at Gingerman. This is only his 3rd race. It's the first race his dad's been able to come and watch. The broken hub he had, the guys, Broden at Bro Parts, loaned him a hub. His dad helped him put it together, and he ends up on pole. I mean,
amazing.
What a cool story, huh?
Amazing, yeah. And I know that one of our guys, Zach Lavoie, was racing with him pretty hard in race 1 right before that hub broke.
Yep.
And was seriously impressed with how well he was driving and at such a young age.
Yeah, he started doing HPDE stuff at 14. And when he turned 16, they asked him to be an instructor. So obviously they realized, yeah, kid's got some skills here.
Yeah.
And he was showing it here. So let's run through that starting lineup. Front row is Matan Rosenberg, joined by Jake Price. Then it'll be in row 2, the 13 of Ryan Upham and the 212 of Andy Smedegard. Good driver. Be interesting to see him up in the sharp end of things. Starting in the 5th spot, the 27 of Scott McGee. In 6th, the guy who at one point moved to the lead in the points championship. He's now 2nd by 1 point. That's another big story. Eric Coutiel in the number 82. He's already had a couple of wins this weekend. In the 7th starting spot is number 7, Luke McGrew. Starting in the 8th spot is number 19, Aaron Lichty, who is now back in the point lead by 1. Then we move to the 9th starting spot, the Thundering Corvette of Jeremy Swenson. He's 3rd in the points, 3 back. Yes, the top 3 in points now. They came in 9. After a couple races, it was 6. Now it's 4. It couldn't be any closer. Rounding out the top 10, the number 94 of Tom O'Gorman, who I've just from previous experience know he's really good in the wet, so that should be fun. Then it is going to be in 11th, the guy who won the 3rd race, the 61 of DJ Alessandrini. This is a home track. He should be fun to watch here. Starting 12th, the 101 of Gary Wimble. Starting in the 13th spot, the 42, the 3rd of the ASM cars, Zach Lavoie. Starting in the 14th spot, the very fast number 14 of Emil Tabb. See what he's going to be able to do. Starting 15th is the 92 of Marcus Luttrell. 16th, the 187 of Chris Adams. Starting 17th, the number 3 of Eric Meadows. Starting 18th, the number 33 of Justin Lee. Starting in the 19th spot is the 28 of Steve Pruden. Starting 20th, rounding out the 10th row, the 213 of Scott Robertson. Starting 21st, the 159 of Joshua Rubenstein. Starting 22nd, the 24 of Dustin Pardee. Starting 23rd, the 18 of Colton Wade. Starting 24th, the 261 of Brad Kusiba. Starting in the 25th spot, the 106 of Michael Kritikos. Starting 26th, the 6 of Ryan Christoph. 27th, the 515 of Thomas Moss. 28th, the 898 of Brian DeFries. 29th, the 182 of Max Lupfer. Starting 30th, and the hard luck guy here this weekend as the pace car moves in, the 34 of Austin Hertel. Starting 31st, the 57 of Craig Moulton. 32nd, Wesley Penn, who got his first points at the first race of this event here. So a great run for Wesley. Starting 33rd, the 777 of Ron Solomon. Starting 34th, the 46 of Team Griffin. It'll be Riley Griffin driving. Starting 35th, the 184 of Eric Jensen. 36th, the 75 of Adam Jabay. And 37th, the 188 of Daniel Howard. That is the starting lineup here. And I'm intrigued here to see, we might be in these conditions. Looks like they might be, well, no, now they are starting to form up. I thought they might be going with a single file start, but they are starting to form up 2 by 2. And for Matan Rosenberg, he had punctured a tire. He was trying to find a new set of tires, which he did, but now the rain moved in. I don't know if he's got wets, so that's going to be interesting to see, but he's under some pressure.
Yeah, it looks like we've already seen 2 cars leave the field. I saw Upham dive into the pits at the end of that formation lap, and it looks like Jake Price has gone in as well.
All right, here we go. Let's see what happens as we're coming to the green. 15 minutes of racing for the 4th race. Looks like a late green. I think they waved him off. And I think it's because we had the top 6 rows looking pretty good, and then 7th on back, we're nowhere near close.
Yeah, it could be. It could also be just the communicate or the fact that those cars left the field, and that left the grid not really in 2 by 2s. It left the field in a state where we have 1 car on the front row and then 2 cars on the second row. So they may need to reform that group and come around for another pace lap. So as you see them coming around, they're back to single file now, and I expect that what we'll see is as they get towards the start line again, they'll form up 2 by 2. Hopefully we'll see the two cars in each row as they take the green flag.
Well, the interesting thing here is a lot of times when it's the scheduled start and they wave it off, the clock would start. Here they haven't done that. So I like that. At least, these are short enough races. So if you do a lap in these conditions in particular, whoops, somebody just a little wide there. It's the 184.
It looks like Jensen went off there on the formation lap. So I know Mid-Ohio has a reputation for being incredibly slick in the wet.
It does. It is a very tricky place. So I'm really not surprised. Remember, Eric had that great run going. And then the car broke over between turns 8 and 9. So they did a nice job in the thrash to get him together. He's starting well back in the order, as I said, in 35th. But that car's got pace. So it'll be interesting to see. But it all depends on the kind of grip in the tires that he has at this stage.
But yeah, it looks like Jeremy Swenson has decided that he does not want to take the start as well, and he's left the field here.
That's interesting because we would have thought that with those street tires that he could have been fairly effective. And if the rain lets up a little bit, which it is a possibility it won't, certainly, that he could have been a factor here because that's a heavy car. And interestingly, sometimes in the wet, the heavier cars are the ones that have even more success, especially if you can soften the suspension up and get that weight to roll over onto those outside loaded tires.
Yeah. My guess is that he's kind of looked at the weekend points. He'll know where he is. He really needed a win and for both Tom O'Gorman and Eric Coutil to be 11th or lower to have a chance at a win for the weekend. The way the season points work, you drop your worst races, so it doesn't matter too much if he misses a race.
That's a good point. We haven't talked about that, have we, that you get to drop. Is it just the one?
No, there's a number of drops that you get depending on the number of races there are in a season.
Okay.
So yeah, he's probably looking at that and saying, hey, I don't want to risk my equipment on this notoriously tough track. I don't really have a chance for the win over the weekend, and a zero doesn't hurt me in the season. So why risk it? Why not, play the long game a little bit, be smart, and save it for another day.
Makes good sense. Look at that rain coming down as this time we'll see, do they go green? Field looks a little bit better here. Looking at that start stand, are we going to see the green flag fly? We do! We're green! And a huge launch right away. Jake Price. And was that Coutil threading the needle there?
Coutil's up in front now, and it looks like DJ was coming around on the inside there.
Yeah, Coutil came from 6th. Goes right out to the rain line. Smart move. You can see so does O'Gorman. O'Gorman coming up from 10th, already up into 3rd. Smedegaard right behind him in 4th. Ooh, lots of slides. And O'Gorman down to the inside. Jumps into the 2nd spot. And you can tell the drivers that have been around this track in the wet before, driving the very bizarre to many looking lines. That's the rain line. Look at O'Gorman working the outside of Coutil as they come through 8. Coutil started to drift over. Now O'Gorman in a power slide, drops the rears into the gravel. Does he get through it? He does. Now he's got to keep it moving. He gets that done, but he has lost a ton of track position here. And Coutil finds himself with a little bit of breathing room. Lichty slots into 2nd.
Yeah, and that just goes to show just how tricky conditions are here. To take out a driver as experienced at this track as Tom, and to force him into that mistake really shows the difficulty.
It does. And DJ Alessandrini, who, of course, won, so he starts in 11th. He's up into the 2nd spot, although I think Lichty just went by him around the outside. That was a beautiful move. Now does DJ try and come down the inside? Nope. And I think this is going to be an interesting battle. DJ, that front-wheel drive car, and he knows this track incredibly well, but the Cayman, what we were talking about, a bit heavier with great balance, and it can generate a bit of stick. Somebody's pulled off on the first lap there over in the unused club chicane.
Yeah, and right now things are looking good for Eric Coutil. He's out in 1st. His only real competitor is Tom, who he just has to beat today to get the win out for the weekend. And Tom looks like he's back down in 5th or 6th now. 7th place.
Look at the run Lichty got here, using the power coming out of the keyhole. Boy, but right at the end of the straight, when they both get up on the pipe, Coutil able to scoot by just a little bit, and it looks like DJ's going to get back around Lichty. Now, Lichty's going to try and park it and use that rain line, and did so beautifully. And you can see the grip out there. Now DJ should have that rain line, and Lichty trying to get as close to it as he could without getting into a DJ. That was an interesting little moment there. And they've opened up a pretty handy little margin right now over Smedegard.
That looks like Tom's back up to 4th.
Is it
Tom's really carving back through the field here. So,
it sure is. Wow, what a recovery he's put together.
Oh, and Eric Coutil's gone
off, and I don't know, is he going to get through? No! Oh my, what a development for Eric Coutil. Won both of the opening races from pole. Oh, that is just a gut check for Eric right now.
And what that really means now is if Tom can just hold station, he will win for the weekend. He'll win the weekend points.
So nice job there. So DJ going for a 2nd straight win. Then it's Lichty, your overall season point leader. And there is O'Gorman. Yeah, what a recovery drive by Tomo.
Yeah, and he's past now Lichty for 2nd. And
DJ, did he save
he hung
that?
on to that impressively.
Oh my, that was one of the most spectacular saves. And O'Gorman has the back end rotate around and hangs on to it. Well, if anybody thinks these guys in the wet weren't going to go for it, they were completely mistaken. This is spectacular stuff.
Yeah, someone needs to tell these guys there's no style points today. It's all about the finish place, but looks like they want those bonus points anyway.
And the rain is just pummeling down right now. So even if you're on wets, this is going to be really iffy stuff. And let's see what happens here. O'Gorman, big head of steam. But right here, DJ's car really comes alive as well. And you don't want to overshoot into 4 because, believe me, you may have gotten out of that gravel trap over at the exit in 9. Doesn't happen so easily here in China Beach. But look at the grip around the outside. O'Gorman used it. Now DJ's going to have it. And O'Gorman, did they touch or did Tom save it before they tapped each other?
I don't think they touched.
And then he dives to the inside. This is spectacular, Alex.
Yeah, I think every corner right now is up high on your commitment meter level. Every single one.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I don't know if they didn't touch, I don't know how Tom was able to save it other than the fact that he's just an immensely talented driver, but that was hugely close. And there, that is just a sad thing to see is Coutil parked in that gravel trap.
Yeah, nobody wants to see that. None of the competitors will want to see that either. But, you know, it's exact same spot that Tom went off.
Yeah.
Tom spun, taking, you know, 2 of those very experienced drivers at this racetrack out. Such difficult conditions here.
Well, and that's one of the things when you're driving the rain line and you're ramping the outside of the corner, you had better get it right because if you do skate off, you don't have, if you're on the normal line where you can slide a little bit and catch it, there's nothing there. We have a yellow, don't we?
Yeah, full course caution it looks like.
All right. And I wonder if it's because of Coutil. If
may
somebody
be.
goes off, they could get to him.
Yeah, I mean, if it's always one of those things. If one car gets there, a second car can get there, right? So probably the smart thing to go and try and recover that car. With the conditions as well, they would not be happy doing a tow under a local yellow.
Yes, I would agree completely. It's one thing when you got drivers of this caliber that on a dry track and they can actually have a little bit of, you know, certainly control out there and be able to get through it. In the wet, you just never know what's going to happen. And the car that pulled off in the club chicane there started to move again, and then looks like it stopped. So
yeah, it looked like he was going to try and rejoin the field while they're under the pace car. He might be waiting to catch the back of the field rather than get into the mix in the middle. One of the problems that drivers are going to have in this and are having is windshield fogging up and getting visibility issues, not just from the rain, but from fogging on the windshield as well.
That's a really good point. Visibility in the wet is at a premium anyway, and then you start to get a fog windshield. It becomes hugely problematic here. And I'll tell you, the guy who's going to benefit from this is Aaron Lichty and Luke McGrew, who had dropped about 7 to 8 seconds behind that lead duo. And under this caution, obviously, that gap will just evaporate here. And assuming we get back to green, we'll have to see whether this time they're able to stick with them a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully we get that car recovered and get them back to green for this race because this is exciting.
It is, and I'll tell you, in these conditions, and this is why I keep talking about, you know, the people that say to me, well, I'd be interested in corner working, but I don't want to do it in the wet. Watching a race from that best seat in the house in the wet is just spectacular stuff.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And they do have the best seat in the house because they have to. They
Yes.
have to be able to see the track.
Yep, exactly. And they provide, you know, and again, you're part of it. You're part of the race with the blue flag and the yellows and the like. It's really cool stuff here. And they got Coutil moved. And I would think, because he never hit anything, he could restart and get going. Obviously, he's going to be down a lap or two.
Yeah.
But at least he'll be able to continue. And Matan Rosenberg, you know, he didn't force the issue. He hasn't made any mistakes. When faster guys came up, and you know that could be a very smart thing, is to say, all right, you know, I haven't run here before. I've certainly never raced here in the wet.
Mm-hmm.
This is a diabolical place. I've heard about it. I'm going to let the faster guys go by. Then I'm going to follow them around and try and learn a little bit, learn some tricks. And there is Coutil.
Yeah, I think for Rosenberg, we saw when that flag went green, that car just did not get going.
Yeah.
I think it had. I'm not sure he had the best tires for the conditions.
Yep.
And he just kind of got swamped on the straight.
Yeah, he truly did.
And it looks like we're going to restart here.
There we go. Back to green as Coutil's out. So, O'Gorman is now right back onto the 6 of DJ Alessandrini, but now Lichty is right there. McGrew is right there. And how about Gimbel up into 5th? Great run for him.
Yeah, DJ really wrestling that car right now. It looks like Tom's got a run on him.
Yeah, he ran a little wide, and then he got the edge of that curb, and it upset the car. And Tom on the outside here, you would think.
I think he will drive around him here. But
I would think, because you can almost see that
Yep.
grip line around the outside. Here he goes. Ramps the corner, gets the hammer down a little bit sooner. Ooh, hit a puddle, and that car just skated, and that's going to let DJ get back into it a little bit. Now DJ's the one getting that face full of spray, though.
Yep, and as we saw when they were coming into turn 2, we couldn't see the cars.
Yes.
And the drivers are having to deal with that condition, trying to drive incredibly quickly in difficult conditions. Yeah, and just impressive what these guys are able to do.
Yeah, look at the margin they've opened up already over Lichty, then McGrew, and then Gimbel. And how about Zach Lavoie up into the 6th spot right now, having a really strong run?
That's fantastic for him. I know his mom's watching and his wife is watching, and they'll both be very pleased to see that.
And let's see now if DJ, both of these guys so experienced on this track, you see them cutting through, making sure they go rain line to rain line. Here's where Tom had a little bit too much speed in that opening lap. Boy, he nailed it that time.
Yeah, I think
Never.
wow, these guys have just checked out.
They have.
That's amazing.
And never has the term floating speed through a corner been more apropos, huh?
Yeah, they are literally floating speed through these turns. Just see the amount of water coming off the tires.
It's just pumping through those the channels in those tires, and running that really wide arc all the way through the carousel and onto the front straight. As you can see, here's the white flag flies. Last lap.
I imagine they're having an absolute ball out there, but I also imagine they're relieved to see that flag come out.
Oh, you bet they are. You bet they are. And one thing, racers in these conditions, you know, you respect the guys, they're good friends, but you use every tool you can. And I know there were some racers told me at various tracks when they see a seam in the pavement where the water puddles, they make sure they run, if they're in front of a guy, they make sure and put their tires right on top of it.
Sure.
Because that means more water in his face.
Yeah.
So they will do everything they can. And, boy, that margin they have opened up right now is pretty substantial in just 2 laps, up to 7 seconds. And O'Gorman looking really strong here. He's got that little bit of a lead built up. You just want to make sure here, brake a little earlier. Last lap, make sure no mistakes. Tomo, just beautiful. DJ staying with him.
Yeah, the one thing, the rain line's going right around the outside of the edge. That's where the grip is on this track when it's wet. And on a lot of tracks when it's wet, it's like that. But it takes that commitment factor because you have no margin. If you leave that line, you're in the grass and you're done. So whereas a normal racing line, you have a little bit of wiggle room in the dry.
That's exactly right. And this is where, you know, Tom, Mason, Ohio, you know, DJ from Cleveland, raced here a lot. Track knowledge on this track, particularly in the wet, is huge.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Tomo last time through 11. Ooh, little twitch there, held on to it. Up into the carousel one final time.
Still pushing, doesn't know how to not push, does he?
Well, when you're, sometimes when you're in the zone, when you slow down, then you start to make little mistakes. And he just likes the groove he's in, quite literally right now. Here he comes onto the front straight. After 3 straight seconds, he finishes with a win and the weekend championship. Tom O'Gorman, ASM, Andy Smedegaard Motorsports, finishing up top. But DJ, what a run he put in, Alessandrini did, and gets a second place finish, another podium. Look at the drag race at the line here, and Lichty will get that. And that should actually open up his lead in the season championship points. And look at he's down a couple of laps, but a nice run there at the end as well by Eric Coutil once he got back on track. But Gimbo, what a fabulous run for him to bring it home with a top 5.
Yeah, great work for all those guys. Man, it was nice to see Eric Coutil take the finish. Oh, and there's Rosenberg off track. Right at the end there.
Well, he had done, his dad's here watching. He had done the really smart thing with not having a lot of track knowledge in the wet, certainly, is just let the fast guys go, try and learn from them. Ran a little wide there, but still doing a nice job. Zach Lavoie up into 6th, Christoph in 7th, Robertson in 8th, Lee in 9th, and Andrew Work brings it home and rounds out the top 10. Here's a look at the 188 of Howard. And nice to see right here Riley Griffin in that Turner BMW. They've really been struggling with stuff, and he's going to bring it home here in 15th. So after a really difficult weekend for them, what a great way to wrap things up.
Yeah, fantastic. It's there, and there's Tom O'Gorman, who is the race winner, and still going for those style points.
He is having some fun out there as well. Let's take a look at replays of some of the highlights of this one, and there were plenty. Here's at the start. Look at O'Gorman, a big twitch as he went around the outside of Lichty. Both he and Coutil driving the perfect rain line around there. But then watch here, O'Gorman tried to float a little bit of speed around the outside. Right there you can see got wide, dropped that rear, then dropped it again. But here was the difference, is he got that hammer down and had the angle right and skipped across and was able to rejoin. And he came back in a hurry. But for Coutil on the next lap, not so lucky.
No, Coutil managed to basically do the same thing, trying to take that outside line, dropped a wheel off that sucked him into the gravel, and he wasn't able to keep the car moving to get across that gravel beach and back onto the grass.
And it looked to me, as he went to turn, there was a little twitch, and then the car straightened out, and he was turning. He had nothing left and just went straight off here. And then O'Gorman's comeback drive. Look at this save, first of all, by DJ, and that had everybody cheering. Then watch behind him, O'Gorman pops into view. Boom!
Not to be outdone.
Sideways here. Saves it, straightens it up, and continues on. Then here was the pass for the lead. Ooh, actually this wasn't the pass for the lead. That's when he got, they did not touch.
I don't think they touched, no.
Wow.
Amazing.
Then he dove to the inside again, but DJ had the fast rain line. Tom recognized it immediately and just went back, tucked in behind him, and got himself back into position. And then we had the full course caution, and then on the restart, Tomo just came alive and was able to get through and brings it home for the win. But just a remarkable race. Just want to also say a nice run by the 777 of Ron Solomon, up into 12th. Dan Howard up into 13th. Rosenberg, even with that off, 14th on his first rain race. Has to be pretty pleased with that. And again, Riley Griffin and his dad Bob, who ran yesterday for Team Griffin, doing a nice job up into 15th. Joshua Rubenstein into 16th. Eric Meadows, good drive, into 17th. Schmedegaard, some issues, dropped back into the 18th spot. How about this? From near dead last, Emil Tab up into 19th. That's
wow.
a point, but he did it, and he was dealing with a lot of spray out there, and a nice run for him. And then completing the top 20, Eric Coutil.
Perfect.
So we have had, folks, about every different type of development during these 4 races here this weekend as you can have. The yellow early in the first race that brought an early conclusion to the race, or under caution anyway. Then that absolutely spectacular second race. The shootout was awesome. The third race was, great battling and the like. Wasn't quite as fierce as that second race, but great stuff. And then this rain and all the developments in race 4. Folks, if you haven't been entertained by GRIDLIFE Touring Cup here this weekend, you've been napping or something. This has been just off the hook, hasn't it?
It has. I think we had every bit of drama we could have had this weekend, and it's, just great to see. Overall, great racing by everybody, very few incidents, and, wonderful weekend.
Yeah, that's a very big part of it, relatively clean. Just in that first race, had that first little issue, and then it cleaned up and very little contact. Everybody was able to really put together one heck of a run. And if you've been watching the stream here, we've been showing you the schedule. Lots more racing of GRIDLIFE Touring Cup to come this season. Of course, all part of the wonderful events that GRIDLIFE puts on that include the time attack that everybody has been enjoying and the like. And we certainly encourage you, go to the website, take a look at the schedule, and make sure that you come out. I think there's a big festival coming. One of the big festivals back at Gingerman.
In 2 weeks, we're going to be at Heartland Park in Topeka for another race. And then in mid-September, we will be having the Midwest Festival, the big homecoming to Gingerman Raceway in Michigan.
And also, we'll be at Road America during the course of this season. That one's going to be absolutely phenomenal at what I call America's Nürburgring.
Yes.
So much yet to come. I'll tell you what, though, it's going to be tough to beat what we've seen here this weekend. And, Alex, you made it an absolute pleasure, my friend. Really enjoyed it. And, again, want to give a big shout-out to Kyle Heyer, who had an opportunity to call some pro racing this weekend. So wonderful for him. Glad he got that opportunity. It was a delight for him to give me a call to come in and to help cover for this weekend. Just keeping the chair warm for you, my friend. It's been absolutely great. So on behalf of everybody here at GRIDLIFE, on behalf of our stream crew, and on behalf of Alex Moss, I'm Greg Creamer. It has been a treat. Hope to be able to do this again sometime. It's been a joy. Take care, everybody. Today's coverage of the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup is brought to you by FCP Euro. Every part you buy is guaranteed for life. Falken Tire. Competition proven performance. MOMO, the official safety partner of GRIDLIFE. Hawk Brakes. Race proven, street legal. And Valvoline. Valvoline VR1, available at Advanced Auto Parts stores.